Hello, everybody. We're back with King Shit Talk. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, however, you may be tuning in, whether you're on the Wisdom app, whether you're listening on Spotify, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. I really appreciate you. It has been a full week thus far. So much has happened that has given me about 10 weeks worth of content, to be honest with you, but I'm not going to get into any of that tonight. We're going to jump right back into what we were discussing the week before last, which was how do we get our youth back on track. This is part two. And again, I have S. Dot with me and Miss Kristen Brown, who we call KB now. But I'm going to bring them up momentarily. And for those of you that are tuning in tonight that may have not tuned in then, I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves and what they do. And then we're going to jump right back into it. But I'm going to get this out of the way right now. Those that are listening, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go like and subscribe to that. It is King Shit Productions. If you're not following me on Wisdom app, please go ahead and follow and subscribe on Spotify and your other podcast listening platforms as well. And also follow S. Dot, follow Kristen Brown. They'll tell you, their handles or whatever. And please go follow them as well, because I don't pick my guests lightly. I definitely do some research on them. If they aren't stand-up people, they don't make it on here. So anyone that you ever hear on here, trust and believe that you can follow and support them as well. But without further ado, I'm bringing up S. Dot and KB. Thank you for joining me again.
Honored to be here, my brother.
You guys doing all right?
Yeah, doing great.
I dare not complain. I get in trouble for saying that, but I always say that. I get in trouble for saying that.
Hey, I feel the same way. I say the same thing. Oh, and I forgot to tell the people my drink of choice for tonight. I don't know what everyone else is drinking, but I have chosen to drink strawberry Nesquik tonight.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to tell you, I have been fiending for some strawberry Nesquik for about a month. And so I said, that's what I'll drink tonight instead of my wine or mixed drink or straight liquor or anything like that. I'm just going to drink strawberry Nesquik tonight.
I don't think anybody saw that coming.
I agree.
Nobody. Aqua. Alkaline aqua.
Yeah. And see, I've been drinking my alkaline water too, but I'll wash the strawberry milk down with the alkaline water. But for those that are tuning in for the first time, KB, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me back. It's always an honor and pleasure to share the stage with the two of you. My name is Kristen Brown, and the running phrase these days, because it seems like who I am changes on the daily, but right now I call myself a self-love mastery and relationship healing author, mentor, and speaker. And I have just published my second book that was released on April 11th, 2023, that became an international #1 bestseller.
That's wow. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called The Recovering People Pleaser, a spiritual guide to reclaim your true worth and attract the love you deserve. And basically the gist of what I teach is all about shame and unworthiness recovery. But I am a person who completely dedicated herself to the raising of her children. My goal was to raise these little kids into high functioning adults who actually still liked me and wanted to be around me. And they're doing amazing. We're an awesome family, and I'm really honored here to talk to you guys today and the audience, because youth are a priority in my life. Helping youth prosper and grow into amazing human beings is extremely important to me. So thank you guys for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here.
Wow, that is tough to follow up.
Yeah.
I am not an author. I'll try to keep it brief though. As King was so generous to say, my name is Sean Davis. By profession, I am a pre-release case manager. That means I actually go into prisons and I offer a program through the organization I work with to give them an opportunity to avoid recidivism. It is an amazing program. We try to make sure they have food and receivers they need for someone in their pocket, as well as giving them another case manager, a job coach, and a mental health therapist. They really, really miss out on the mental health aspect of that, while a lot of gentlemen are incarcerated. On the, I guess you could say on the side, I too have a podcast or a show. It's called Substance Over Surface. And there, I am just known as a stubborn, optimistic political pugilist. So I believe a lot of things tap into our lack of understanding of legislation, and with that, I believe we can open the doors to truly help our communities and cultures all around. So, and much like KB, I'm honored to be here, and I want to also say congratulations to you, KB. That's an awesome accomplishment, and you're always so generous and kind in your praises for me and King, and I got to tell you, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, guys, I hear a little bit of feedback. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm hoping it'll leave, but we're gonna keep pushing forward regardless. But so we're gonna jump right back into this. For those that didn't tune in week before last, we were talking about how do we get our youth back on track, because there's a whole lot going on with the youth, and that's where that's one of our passions with trying to get this generation that's coming up behind us to be more positive, to feel the love that we have for them. We're hoping to understand them more, and just basically having an open door for them to ask for help and to progress in a positive way. Now, where we left off week before last was there are 70.1%, roughly what they say, under the age of 18 that live with both parents. Now, that's a large number. There's 21.4% that live with the mother, 4.4% that live with the father, and 4% that don't live with either of the parents. Now, I'm not sure whether they're being raised by the grandparents or the aunts or uncles, or whether they're just in foster care. But from you guys' experience, with those numbers being so high as far as living with both parents, if most of the time when we hear about youth that may have gotten off track, the first thing people want to say is, well, they don't have a father around, or what's the home life like? They don't have the parents. Well, if there are more than 20 million kids that get in these systems that aren't productive, but yet 70% of them are from a two-parent home, then what would you believe is some of the cause to why they're getting off track?
KB, do you want to go first, or would you like me to take it?
You can. You were so gracious to let me go first each time last time, so you take it away, Estat.
Okay, thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's interesting. Actually, I'm glad you pointed that out about the percentages of how many parents are actually involved. What I think, what I feel is really unfortunate is that we have perpetuated so often that households are fatherless, that it is rippled over decades, right? And a corrective action has been taken, right? So when you say you have a number like that, that's 70% that fathers are actually involved in the household, you know what I'm saying, the parents are together. Like that's not what's out there. That's not what's predicated. So I think we continue to use old lines to make up new problems. And unfortunately, there's a financial gain to that. And it's also for maybe a lack of terminology, also a social political gain to it as well. When I hear that though, I'll say, so to couple with that, right? So that's not necessarily the only problem that's going on there, right? So I would say one of the larger aspects that we have lost is a lack of community involvement, right? We don't have those community centers. We don't have, how can I put this? It wasn't a joke, but as a case manager, something I used to say, like, if I got a grandmother that's 30, 36 to 38, something went wrong twice, right? And that's nothing against that, but that in that particular dichotomy, right? Who was parenting who, right? You know what I'm saying? How much parenting happened? What did occur? Was her mother's mother involved in her mother's life? You know what I'm saying? So on and so forth. Same thing with the father. Was his father involved in life? To what degree, right? When we peel back these layers of trying to understand, we get past the percentages, right? The lack of accountability that we take within of maybe I'll put it this way. I think I've heard for the last, and I'm 47, so I'll say this: for the last 50 years, I think there's been this going line that said like the children are our future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Show me proof that you've invested in the children's future.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's what I would like to say on that particular behalf. So please, KB, I'd love to hear your opinion on it, man.
So this is my theory because I've not done a lot of work around this and I didn't know those numbers until just now. But my theory is this. We're all the walking wounded. Everybody on this planet is the walking wounded. We've been through our ish, some of us worse than others, but that doesn't even really matter because trauma is specific to each person. If it's trauma to one person, then it's trauma, right? Where someone else might be, yeah, that was a piece of cake that wouldn't have bothered me. But trauma is trauma is trauma. So if you think just generations and generations of trauma, and those people are now having babies and raising those babies, and they're unhealed themselves. So I think this is where we get into the issue is in sometimes the 70%, right, of the two-parent household, yet we have so many kids in the system. It's not necessarily just because single parenting, because I know some kick-ass single parents, lots of them, right, that are just doing an amazing job. And we can't just sectionize them and say that's the problem because it's really not. I'm a single parent and I managed to work this out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the key was for me to look within me. And I think we touched upon this last time, gentlemen, about how much each of us have really looked at ourselves and our histories and the family dynamics and pathologies that we came from. And we were like, yeah, that's not going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think the key is parents aren't working on themselves. And so then they're trying to raise babies without, even if they had the manual, if they've got the filter of that woundedness, that's always going to come through. It's going to bleed through in their parenting the same way it always bleeds through in their romantic relationships or even friendships. So for me, it's just people in general need to take responsibility for their emotional and mental health first. That's what I did back in the day. I spoke about this last time that I went through this really dramatic thing I called my tsunami. And it was at that point that I really looked at myself and I was like, I got to clean some shit up because I'm not doing this again. And that was when I really broke open and realized that I had my inner world was tainted by my wounds. And that was how I was showing up to the world. It was also what I was attracting to me. So the best gift I gave my children was the gift of healing myself. And then that helped me shift into a better parent than even I was just 10 years earlier.
And I think that's so important that you mentioned about healing yourself, because a lot of times with any kind of situations, whether we're talking about kids or relationships or whatever, when you look at where the issues normally start, a lot of them can be found within us. And like Esdot was talking about the mentoring programs and things earlier, talking about not seeing many. They also have a number on that. They're saying there are 5,000 mentoring programs, and out of those 5,000 programs have to serve 3 million youth.
Wow, stop it.
Yeah. So even with that, and that's a astronomical number, but then you have to wonder, okay, if there are 5,000 mentoring programs out there, how much is getting put into these programs? How are these programs set up? What kind of people do you have running these programs? Because I've seen situations where, we're going to talk about gangs in a minute, but I've seen situations where there were gang members running the programs, and they were using the program to,
Oh no.
members and stuff like that, because they
To
get to
recruit.
see exactly recruiting the gang members, and they're the ones that's the head of these programs. So when it's situations like that, what can the civilian, the person that's wanting to change, what can they do when part of the system is causing part of the damage?
Yeah. Estot, would you like to take that, or I can go if you want?
Yeah, I'll take that because that was like fresh in my mind. I appreciate that, KB. When I hear what you're saying, especially when you discuss the system, right? So me, from my case manager days when I was a case manager, they would actually tell us, oh, you got this mentor program, these mentorship programs, and you do a referral for a mentorship program, and you don't hear back from them because the either they didn't have enough people to support it, or the people were just taxed out. Like there wasn't enough people. Like I think with that number gives you an idea. If it's 50, you said 5,000, if I'm not correct, right?
5,000 mentoring programs,
right, for 3 million kids.
Yep.
Right, it's not going to work, right? So like it's like trying to pour soda through a straw, right? You're trying to push all that through there, and what happens is same thing that happens with case managers, same thing that happens with teachers. A lot. What happens is burnout. So you got a mentor trying to do the right thing, right? But and I hate to say this, but if it's a male mentor, he's going to get the worst kids, and they're going to feel like because he's a male, he can restructure their behavior, right? But that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Like the children have seen males before, and they challenge it. And if they're of a particular age, they already know the male can only talk to them. They can't touch them because then they'll go to jail.
Yep.
Because I'm still a kid. By law, I'm still a kid. So when I hear that to solving that, and I know a lot of people say, well, you're asking the system to work that was never built for you. There's some truth to that. I understand that. But it's the system that we have. So if we wish to dismantle it, we should have a plan to enter it, to break it down, so we can create what we need to have in it, right? Those who have that experience, right? So you have to use the system as best you can to save as many of the youth as you possibly can. So when I hear that, I'm like, most of those projects are either funded state or federal. If you have a state or federal representation, then you need to be pressing that button. You need to, you know what I'm saying, participate in understanding what's going on, when those laws are written and when they're made, when you can push back, how you can say something, and ask for an explanation. And not only ask for an explanation, get that explanation on camera, on recording. Say, look, I'm trying to figure out why this is. You say it's a mentorship program. They don't have any mentors. And you made a good point. It would be so easy for a gang member to go in there because they don't have people willing to engage in those particular services because of all the things they're gonna have to take care of, and they're not gonna make any money. They want people to go deal with children who have the worst behavior for free after they've done their job, 8-10 hour job. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot to ask for. So that's why in terms of the burnout, because I can tell you somebody willing to do it, they're young and go home, they get in there and they do it, and they try to help as many people as they can. And then what happens in the system, I'll just speak for here in Florida, we'll just pour more on. The better you do, the more they ask you to work, right? And then they'll simply burn out. But if we don't understand, this goes back to us again, participate in those things, not just federal, state, but even local government. Get on your school, try to understand, you know what I'm saying, get in that school board and understand, well, hey man, like these youth are out here and they're, for lack of term, they're the blood of the ones that are already cut or bleed on the ones that's trying to do it right. And you're not plugging that hole. You're not trying to fix that in any way, shape, or form. And not to take completely off the subject, I saw an article there in my particular state, Florida, in the area where I live at, 137 teachers just resigned.
Wow.
They just resigned?
Just resigned. Because they were in a negotiation for higher salary, better benefits. And the board wasn't moving. So what do you do? You ask me to give my life. We are currently in a state. We're currently in a state where you can get a tax write-off for a boat, a jet plane, but not school products.
Yeah.
Just to put that in context,
Yeah.
I'll end it on that, but just to give you an idea of exactly where we are. When we say the children are our future and we're worried about our youth, I don't see it.
Yep.
I don't see it, not legislatively, not financially, not state, not federal, and fortunately not local either.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you too. You know, it sounds pretty. The children are our future. It sounds pretty. People want to say that, but you know what? Show me the money. Show me what you're doing. And I don't mean money. I mean, show me. And so my comment was going to be, what can we do? You know, some person might think, well, I'm just one little old person. What can I do? What you can do is if you've got any sort of sound mind about you or two arms that hug, pull in the kids around you. Pull them in, make them feel like they matter, make them think that there is a possibility of something else other than doing that wayward thing, right? I'm not saying that's the solution. I'm not saying it's one size fits all because it's not. But on a small scale, that whole it takes a village. Man, if we villaged up,
Yeah.
and we really got together and we saw someone instead of saying, I don't want you hanging around with Jimmy because this is happening with Jimmy, or Jimmy stole something, or Jimmy smoked weed, or how about Jimmy's going sideways. I'm going to pull Jimmy into dinner every night at my house. I'm going to have Jimmy have family night with us. We're going to play games. We're going to talk. I'm going to see if I can get Jimmy to open up. Right? Because we do know, we agreed with this last time, it's that emotional unhealing that's inside of these kids that's making them fracture out all over the place because they don't know what to do. And they shouldn't know what to do. They're babies.
Yep.
Right? They don't know what to do. We talked about that last time too. They're babies probably till they're 25.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I will say this, growing up in middle-class neighborhood, middle-class schools, middle-class everything, my 17-year-old right now hates school. Every day I want to go home. Why, honey? Because it's packed. The kids are outrageous. The teaching, the infrastructure is ridiculous. And she'll tell me these stories and I'm like, God, this school's been around that she goes to that when I went to high school, it was there. So it's, I didn't go to that particular one, but it's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad to say this, but it appears, and I hope that one of you can say something different for me, but it appears like it's getting worse.
Oh yeah.
What do you guys What do you guys think?
I wish I could say the opposite, but
Yeah.
It's
sad.
definitely getting worse, and I see it more and more. I mean, you can see glimpses of it even when you look at the bus stops in the morning. You can see how a lot of the kids are acting at the bus stop. So I can imagine how it goes once they get on the bus and then once they get to the actual school. But before I get to the next point that I was going to get to, there's someone wanting to say something on the wisdom app. I'm gonna bring Andrew Johnson up because he may have something to say to you guys, or he may just want to, give his input on it. So we'll see what Andrew has to say before we move forward. How you doing, sir?
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing?
Wonderful. Thank you for being patient.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not going to take up much of your time, but I do want to talk about really, really quick the mentoring program that y'all were talking about. Just to be transparent with you, I'm involved in one in my local area. And we're in our second year of doing it. And part of the big issue that you run into with these programming, if you want to have them consistently run year by year, is getting the funding. We've really had some difficulties. Like last year, the funding that we had last year. Private route the first time, now we're trying to do something through the state. And even in those situations, the funding, even if you do get approved, is somewhat limited. So, and then with some of those state and federal funding, they have a lot more stringent requirements. So you have a whole lot of other things that you got to deal with pertaining to setting up these mentoring programs. They're not easy. One thing that we do is we were fortunate enough to set up something to where we had one of the mentors' fathers owned some acreage land and had like a farm, and he let the program get about 4 acres. So the kids are farming basically 4 acres this year and learning how to grow stuff.
Oh,
That's
that's great.
awesome.
That is
That was
wonderful.
just that was a benefit. And another thing that I'm doing with it is I'm one of the mentors is I'm teaching them public speaking and I'm teaching them podcasting. And we're trying to get set up a gavel club through Toastmasters because we found out that in these mentoring programs, those type of public speaking things, builds their self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So last year what we did was really good is, we had started off with about 20, 25 kids. And what we did was we had them pick the discipline as to what discipline they would get pertaining to whenever they did something that was inappropriate or wrong. And they picked a discipline and they said we have to do 25 push-ups. So whenever they did something wrong, it wasn't a struggle to get them to do it because they're the ones who picked the discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were involved in the process of what was going on, it worked to our advantage. Now, did we have some issues with a couple of the children? Yes. One of the kids actually ended up, getting arrested. But, out of 20, 25 kids, if we only lost one,
Yeah.
I think we did a good job.
Yes.
We're still continually working with it. We're trying to get another funding source going on right now. And, over the summer, we want to try, pay the kids. We want to give them a little bit of, some finances and money just to let them know that when they do something, whether they're working or doing any type of fundraising type stuff, that there's a reward at the end of the day. So I just wanted to add into the fact that how difficult it can be to start up these programs and keep that funding, consistently coming in from year to year. It's not easy.
Yeah.
You got to continually write grants and different things, and you got to have a place to have like an office place set up. You got to have a place where you meet with them, and it's not easy. So I think that's probably why there's somewhat of a shortage of these mentoring programs. And without a significant amount of federal and state funding, it's tough. I'm just telling you, just from my own experience of dealing with it.
Yeah. Well, brother, I just want to let you know that I'm proud of what you are doing because I know it is rough. It is strenuous, stressful, and frustrating, especially when you want to do something and you want to help and your hands are basically tied. So keep pressing forward. Please continue to do what you're doing. And if there's ever anything that I can do to help you, just shoot me a message and we'll figure it out some kind of way. But thank you for coming up and giving your side of this whole thing.
I appreciate the thought of wanting to help us out. And we really, that's very important. If we can, we don't really ask for anything from people.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want to get the kids to learn how they got to get it through earning it themselves by working it, doing things themselves. So, fundraisers like car washes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We want them to learn how to we want them to learn how to earn, basically. So, that's where it's at. And, I'll say this before I just go, is that if we could get more people to just want to get involved in the process and make it more of a decision to put this at the forefront instead of just thinking that it's not going to work and it's not going to help. But I think that would change things a little bit. The more people who are involved in mentoring programs, I think the more successful they'll be.
I agree.
And thank you, brother.
Oh, thank you. Now, to his point, it made me think of something. In your guys' opinions, why do you think it's so difficult to get funding for mentoring or any kind of centers to help the youth? It's easier to open up a liquor store or to open up a vape shop than it is to get funding to help the youth.
Yes, Dot?
I got a theory. And it's wide ranging. I believe at one point the government was designed to help the people. And after time went on, it became the government changed its destination to be a business. Businesses operate in profit, right? So what? So and when it comes to that, right, and this is something like dealing with case manager all my life. But something I would often suggest to get in trouble about is, unfortunately, when you think in the business aspect, it is easier to be reactive and more expensive to be proactive.
Yeah.
So we would have to ask, we in essence, as he was saying, I believe his name was Andrew or Andre. You have the government would have to be like, okay, we know this is a possibility that's going to happen, so we should get ahead of the game with the money. But they don't want to. They don't want to do that. They want to put that money elsewhere, right? What they'll say that. I'll give you an example from where I'm at in my city, right? I try not to speak in generality, but I believe the budget for our particular police department was over $500 million.
Ooh.
Wow.
So, and that it just continues to increase, right? So that they say, well, we need more officers. We need more officers. We need more officers. So you keep getting officers, right? But our crime rate is still high.
Yeah.
So like it's to sit down and say, okay, whatever we've been, this is not working. So how about we take some of that money? But when you say take money from the police, oh, now you're saying you want to defund the police. You want to defund the police. You want to defund the police. And as bad as it sounds, like, well, yeah, I want to take some of it. Not all of it. I believe in the functioning society, you do need law enforcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I am saying is I don't think law enforcement needs a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
That rocket launcher could pay for a community center. That rocket launcher could pay for a staff for the entire year to run a mentorship. But we just don't want to look at that, and we target that thing in ways. And it's just, I think we tend to think in the business aspect. I'd rather be reactive than proactive. But it seems to me, all businesses, nonprofit or not, the ones that are proactive, that pay on the front, it always come back to help them out in the end. But we don't see that, right? We are a society of instant gratification. Instant gratification. That's what we desire. That's what we want. It's the ones that can master. It's the ones I feel like I can master delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The benefit of seeing that's the benefit of seeing those youth in the mentorship programs graduate from school. That's not immediate. But the seed has to be planted. Much like KB says, like every fire starts with a spark.
Yep.
Somebody's got to be willing to be the spark. But I also will say this: we're in a situation now where the first person that tries to do anything almost positive, right, gets beat up the worst.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like they try to make an example out of him. Don't even try to be like this person right here. Like, you want to end up like this? Because I can't kill you publicly, but I can kill your character.
And it's like you were
Or
saying,
fire you.
yeah, it's like it all boils down to that dollar that you're talking about, because put the money into fire extinguishers rather than training the dragon not to burn everything up in the first place. You know?
Exactly.
Exactly. It just doesn't make sense.
It's interesting because I wrote that, Estat, I said that exact thing. I wrote short-term gratification. That's what I wrote on my paper right here, because I write notes so I don't forget shit what I'm going to say. And I wrote short-term gratification. But I also wrote down the reactive rather than proactive, which I feel like that's how a lot of people parent anyway, and also schools function anyway. There's this reactive thing rather than seeing signs, seeing things. Trouble presents early. It presents early. And if we could have something where we can recognize the signs that something is starting to come, then we can deal with it head on right when it happens, so that we can start. Like my daughter had severe separation anxiety because her father had abandoned her. I noticed, I walked out the door to go to the car to get some bag out of it, and she'd flip out, like full-blown panic attack, and she was past the age of separation anxiety. sign right there. What's going on? This is not normal, right? But if we're too busy running around, not paying attention, thinking these kids are going to raise themselves, we're going to get into a crap ton of problems. And everyone's like, okay, now what do we do? I'm with you guys. We got to deal with it head on. There's a wisdom brother called Joshua Blattman, who is a substitute teacher. He brought in some concepts into the classroom as a sub. All the teachers like him. They all want, are the kids. They all want him back. They love him. The whole thing, high school. And he got fired from that district because of something he said. This is an effective human being, a substitute teacher. Who loves a sub? Everybody hates their subs, right?
Right.
Comes in. They love this guy. He's young. He's with it. He's hip, but he's smart. And he was dealing with the kids in the classroom in a way like this one kid that kept standing up, and it just was after lunch, but he kept moving in his chair. And Joshua goes, "What's up?" He goes, "Do you want to stand up?" The kid goes, "Yeah, I really do." He goes, "Yeah, I can tell you got a lot of energy still." He goes, "How about if I move this desk in and you can do your work standing up over here?" The kid was like on it and settled down. This is high school. He thought outside the box and he applied something different, right? And this is what I think needs to happen is that somehow you guys, I don't know the answer. I'm here talking a lot of theory too. I wish I could wave my magic wand, but it's broken down really low. It's not just up here. Oh, now let's go, squeaky wheel gets the grease. We got to grease the wheel down here. And I think the structures of a lot of school systems are very one size fits all. My daughter had a learning disability because she had something wrong with her eyes. It's developmental. It's something they can grow out of, unlike dyslexia where you have it for life. But she couldn't read and she couldn't do math because things wouldn't line up. And they were one size fitting all her, throwing ADHD at her, all this stuff. And I'm like, this is not it. The teachers didn't even know what a vision skills issue was. That's a problem. So let's throw a pill at her because she's ADHD. She's not ADHD. See what I'm saying? And here I'm educating the teachers. So in a grand scale, I hope you guys understand what I'm saying is like there's something's got to give here. I don't know the answer. I know that people have been trying for a long time. Like my friend Josh was trying to bring in a new perspective and gets canned from the district. He's starting his own school, by the way. Just going to throw that out there.
That's great.
Said he's had enough.
Do you think that in a lot of these situations, it has gotten to a point where it's just filling seats and not properly training or having the right people in these positions? Because
I do.
A lot of the videos I'm seeing and a lot of the people I talk to, it seems that the teachers, I'll say this, when I was growing up, when I was in elementary and middle school, it's not like the kids in my classes were all ready to learn and just sitting there. You had your troublemakers and everything too, but it seemed like the teachers had more passion, patience, persistence. The P's they had.
Probably pay too.
The care was there, but it's a lot of these situations now, and a lot of it may be because they don't make enough money, but it's like some of them now is, okay, if something is going on in the classroom, well, hey, as long as you ain't hurting nobody, you do what you do because they don't pay me enough to, really invest into you like that. And then you have some situations where it looks like the teacher will want to do something, but they just don't know what to do.
I got to say something to that. As I was a hairdresser for 30 years, I think you guys knew that. And I had a lot of teachers as my clients. And I asked them questions up and down and sideways because all the questions I had thought of myself growing up as a kid, but also, how is it? What's it like? Because these teachers are very passionate about what they do. Do you know that every single one of them at some point in a conversation said to me, the kids aren't the problem, it's the parents. It's the parents that they're dealing with that is the problem. They're like, I don't have a problem with the kids. It's when the parent comes in. And now I'm seeing why Junior is having XYZ issue. And then they're powerless because you can't step on toes. You can't OSHA, I don't know what else you do. There's all this pussyfooting around now instead of talking straight and trying to get to the point because someone's going to sue somebody.
Yep.
It's just a mess. It's just a mess.
And with you saying that, it reminds me, because I didn't think about it at first until you just mentioned it, but that is so true. You have so many situations now where the parent is like, hey, you don't say nothing to my child. I'll
Yes.
discipline my child. You raise your voice at my child, then you got a problem with me. Or the kid goes home and, oh, the teacher took my phone. And then now the parent's up there. What you doing taking their phone? Okay, what part of your adult brain tells you that it's okay for a child to have a phone doing whatever they want to do when they're supposed to be learning? So a lot, I think that's a huge part of it right there. With the it's you almost have this reservation, or I dare not say fear, to even say anything to the child, because you just don't know how left it can go. Either the child is going to try to fight you, or the parent is going to come up there and try to fight you.
You know what?
I just want to chime in right quick on that.
Yeah.
Read. So you can, and it's a twofold thing, right? So when we discuss that, for instance, I always use this instance because it touched home. Years and years ago, my son went to school and he was acting up in class, and his mother and his grandmother, they were so pissed off with the teacher. She said that he was up, not paying attention, and talking and trying to play with everybody in the class. And I said, y'all yelled at her for that? She was like, yeah. I pulled his mother to the side. I said, yeah, like you don't know your child. That's what he does at home. So you just berated the teacher about that. So I can speak from personal experience. I was like, you berated the teacher like that. And I want to say this: I do believe, in a way, as we talk about teachers from back in the day, maybe from our generation in this particular conversation, right? Teachers were revered and respected.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to say feared, but revered and respected, right? An educator was somebody you held in high esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And back to KB and what you said too, and I would say the pay reflected that. The pay reflected at that time. Then we kind of skipped over to a point where people thought it was in their best interest to belittle intelligence.
Yes.
You know, like they felt like people with degrees just smashing in their face that they had one, and that necessarily wasn't the case, but it was something easy to ignite and get people upset about. And that translated over to parents, parents not being parented and having discussion. Like the question, like you said with the phone, the question should have been, why did your ass have a phone app?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm coming up here to get your phone, it's a problem. That means you had it out. I know you're not supposed to have that phone out in class. I was using a calculator. This was in English.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So like those are the things that kind of miss, man. I want to go. I really would like to go back to you know what I'm saying, teachers, because to give you a good example, right? Got a school here, and I know we're going to tangents, but got a school here for special arts, right? They just recently did an investigation where it had to be like 4 teachers, misconduct, sexual abuse, and the newly made superintendent, they put all the heat on her and she resigned. Now I'm not apologizing for those teachers that got caught, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not willing to treat the profession with the respect it deserves, of course you're gonna get the people that are at the bottom of the barrel that just do it for a job, not because their passion is educating and seeing young children become young, viable adults. So if we can't flip that switch, if we can't turn that around and have teachers revered, and I also want to say this, protected.
Mm-hmm.
To go back to what you said too. Like I believe there should be legislation where a teacher can defend themselves without losing their job.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that teachers should go Mike Tyson on the kid, but if me blocking and pushing them away, that's considered an altercation. That's considered an assault. I might as well earn it then at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna have to put them down. But with that, I'm just saying with that, because that bounces off teachers, case managers, foster parents, mentors, all that. There should be a legislative slot for, like, if you're accused of a crime of doing something with a child, take it serious, have it investigated. But the minute that you find that there was nothing found, then that should not stay on their record. And that's what happens to a lot of teachers
Yeah.
and case managers. Like once they find like that. So what happened? Well, what happened? The child attacked me, and I defended myself.
And speaking on teachers being able to defend themselves, that takes me right into my next point.
Cool.
There are over 1 million juvenile gang members in the United States of America. And you best believe that some of those million are in these school systems. So when we talk about teachers defending themselves, I can guarantee you there are teachers that know exactly who those gang members are and stuff like that. So it's not only do they have to think about the child that they have to deal with, but what is attached to the child.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
What do you do in that situation?
It's layers deep. Yep. I remember back in the day that a lot of times, the school, I remember being very respectful at school, and you'd go to the principal's office. I remember in our day, the principal even had a paddle.
Yes.
I was scared of the principal paddle.
Yep.
But so some kids came to school and at least had the proper, I don't mean discipline as far as the paddle, but they had structure. They had some type of proper structure when it came to the school. But I do want to point out what Tiara Roberts said over here, who's watching, must be watching on the StreamYard. She said some parents are focused on becoming their child's friends instead of parenting, which in turn the child will lack structure and discipline, which ties in really nicely to what I'm talking about, because that's the thing. That's the problem, is that now they're lacking discipline in two places, especially the place school, which kids spend the majority of the time with their teachers. If you think about it, 8-9 hours, they spend more time than we do sometimes.
Yeah.
Kids come home, we come home from work, we got 2-3 hours before bedtime, and they're back at the school with these people. And if we, and again, I'm not about anything about abuse. I'm not anything about corporal punishment. That's not what I'm saying here. And I know you guys get that, but I want to disclaim that for the audience, that there's got to be a discipline structure set up, and where teachers do have some type of authority without the world coming down on them. But like you said, in certain schools and areas, there is many, many layers to this. And this is why we've seen this in movies where teachers are backing out of those type of schools because they're afraid of something really bad happening. Yeah. It's really tragic. This whole thing is a tragedy.
It is. My buns have personally felt the principal's power. And I still, I'm gonna tell you, my buns got so lit up, I still remember his name, Mr. Brown.
Oh, yeah.
In 5th grade. That bad boy, you get out of line, you want to. I'll say this, he did give a choice, though. He said, you can get 3 licks with this paddle, or I can call your parents. I've been over happily. You know what I mean? Because it was going to be worse at home. But I don't even remember, what year did they take that out of schools?
No idea. I'm older than you guys.
So you'd have to research it. I would have lost that bet, KB.
Yeah, I would have.
I would have lost that bet. Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
That you're older than us.
I'm older than you. You said your age. I'm older than you.
I would have lost that bet. But I will say this: I cannot. I don't remember that. You know what I'm saying, when they took it out, because you had variable of opinions. One was is that by using physical discipline, we teach children to resolve their conflicts with physicality. I get that. You know what I'm saying? I get that. Yeah. But like you said, you go back to what you said. There's 1 million games, 1 million game members, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're talking about a teacher. So all of those. Do y'all remember the movie Principal with Jim Belushi?
Yeah.
Remember that? Or I give you another one, Joe Brown. Lean on me.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So everybody had this idea that the teacher can, be that bold against a gang mentality, right? Now you're asking a teacher who probably has a significant other and children.
Yeah.
Because it's not just them. It was dealing with a gang. It's not just themselves. They put, that's going to be that can deal with retribution. can also be their family.
That's right.
So yeah, it does turn into see no, hear no. I want to do something, but at what cost? At what cost? So again, understanding that though, like you say, understanding that that's the case though, you have police officers at the school. They should be made aware that they should know this, therefore giving a layer of protection to teachers. But again, we're not addressing that because they say, well, you can't say who is in what. But if it's 1 million gangs in there, I can assure you 1 million of them are recruiting.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then unfortunately, we live in a time where we have some law enforcement that won't even get in harm's way because they have the families at home. Because what was the situation? I can't remember where it was, but it was an active shooter at the school.
Uvalde.
The officer got fired because he hid behind the car outside while it was going on.
Well, you talking about that? I'm talking about Uvalde. They had a whole force that would not go in.
That's crazy. I don't know what it is. That's not. There's a little bit of feedback
I try to turn
on your
everything
mic,
off, brother.
I don't know what's doing it, but it's a little staticky every time you start talking.
Okay. Well,
But yeah, it's I can only imagine what a lot of these kids are feeling like. And the reason I say that is I can remember a time where I was in school and my anxiety would be up just from knowing the class clown may decide to choose you to be the butt of the jokes, this particular.
Yeah.
So if that had me nervous to go to class,
Yes.
I can imagine these kids that know their classmates may have guns or will threaten to beat them up and stuff like that, and then they don't want to say anything about it because you're labeled as a snitch, or it puts a larger bullseye on you. If you go tell the teacher, and you I guess they probably wouldn't want to tell the parent because they don't know if the parent's going to come up to the school and say something, and then they're still outed. So it's sad.
It's like KB said, it's layered. This is a layered discussion, layered problem.
Very layered. I was gonna comment on the highlighted comment that you had up on the screen, King, where it says too many parents want to be their child's friend, from Tammy Sims. They are scared that their child will get mad at them or not like them. Here's the deal. If your child's well-being is worth them being mad at you, let them be mad at you.
Oh yeah.
Because guess what? They're going to get, I don't like it either, you guys. I wrote a book called The Recovering People Pleaser for a reason, because I'm a recovering people pleaser. Was a pushover. I was a doormat, didn't want to not be liked, all of those things. But I'll tell you something, when it came to my babies, I had to risk being not liked, because if what I was saying was rooted in truth or morals or values or some type of something, that 10 minutes of pissed off or slamming a door, doing whatever they're doing, they got over it and they grew because of it. We got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Parenting is not easy. We're not their friends. We're their parents. We're their guidance. We're their guardians. And it's our job to protect them. And we must do the things that are required, even if that means that we're not going to be in their favor for that day.
Mm-hmm.
Go be mad at me. I had to get really comfortable. I'm still not comfortable with it. My daughter the other day was mad at me for something, and I was just, I was like, I don't like this feeling. And I'm like, remember, this is okay. This was a good reason. And I have to remind myself that. And now I have the two older ones that, measure that back to me, and I can see how much it worked. So limits equal love, parents. Limits equal love.
That's good. That's good. And see, you guys, I swear you guys are saying things tonight that just alley-oop my next points perfectly.
I love that.
All right.
You're talking about being comfortable, and sometimes you have to do those hard things. Now, part of a child being comfortable when it comes to a parent, one, there has to be a soft yet firm place for them to land, because they have to feel that there is that open door policy. And I say that to say there are up to 80,000 cases of child sexual abuse. 80,000. And 30% don't get reported by children. So out of those 80,000, 30% of that, they never say anything. Now, with not saying anything, that means what? You're holding it in, you're carrying that yourself. And do you feel like that adds to this off track way that the youth are going? Now, some of them have been sexually abused and they aren't saying anything. That can turn into lashing out. That can turn into aggressive. That can turn into depression and so many other things. Have you guys encountered that? And what do you think role that plays in what we're talking about?
I'm gonna grab this one real quick and tell you, I think the number's higher than 30% unreported.
I do too. I
think it's a freaking epidemic. I think it's more than we think. Because I will tell you something. On the Wisdom app, I gave a talk about sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, all those type of things, because gratefully, by the grace of God, it never happened to me, but I came damn close about 5 times. Right there on the edge, something happened that it didn't happen. And just having that experience, I thought, how much of this does actually happen, right? I gave a talk on wisdom. This is 8-9 months, maybe a year ago. And you can't believe one person after the other on the stage, tons of men, by the way, a lot of men came up who are even more ashamed to talk about it, right? So I think this is absolutely rampant. And another thing that I need to say is that the protection of our kids, this is my soapbox. I'm going to tell you, I gave like a 2-3 hour talk on this. We have got to keep our eye on those kids. We have got to keep our eye on everybody, male, female, I don't care what. Pay attention to the behaviors after they're not with that person or has spent time with that person. Check in the room, open the door, pay attention. Yep. That's all that's required. The things that almost happened to me were because nobody was paying attention. Right. And I didn't know the words around it. I didn't know how to express it. But when we got to pay attention, because my eldest daughter said to me, wow, Mom, none of those things even remotely crossed my path. And I said, you're right. You're right. It didn't.
There's a reason for that.
And I'm not saying anything against my parents, because they did the best they could, kind of naive, really, honestly naive. But we got to pay attention to those babies, keep our pulse on them, know where they're at, know who they're with, ask questions, meet parents, meet the friends, get the feel from in here of the friends, not the fake facade they put on with the parents, right? Because they're going, hi, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. Nuh-uh. What do they feel like to you? What are you smelling when you're around them? Get the pulse on it. And if it doesn't feel right, limit their time with that person. Be willing to be the bad guy.
And sometimes it's like with you saying how your daughter said it never happened to her, and you like, yeah, because of you. I've had people tell me that my hold on my kids is a little too tight. I said, well, it's just going to have to be tight, because I know some of the things that I experienced or went through as a child. And I was like, so I look for certain things. There have been times they've been around, family members from their mother's side. And I'll look at them sideways. I'm like, certain tones and things like that. I'm like, nah, not on my watch.
Nope.
It would not happen.
Yeah. And I'll say this, I don't think parenting should be subjugated to someone's opinion.
Exactly.
And I want to give Tara Roberts, I believe it was, a shout out too. She mentioned about children having mental therapists within the school. And I want to say this, and I've been on record saying this before, man. If you can get an officer, a nurse, you damn sure can get a therapist.
Yep.
At a school, you can do that. But to go back to, like you said, underreported, and that is reported. I dare to say that underreported number probably is bigger, but it's not just for the kids, it's probably for the parents.
Yeah.
They never dealt with what happened to them. And I would say probably to their heart, they're hoping it never happens to their kids. Because then they're going to question, what was it about me for it to happen to me? And was it my fault it happened to my child? It's a difficult, very, very difficult, delicate situation to deal with, because of how I want to say my previous generation handled things. Like, and this is no diss to you, KB, but particularly what I've come to find out in our particular demographic is that back in the day, I think family members, especially women, found it hard to turn another family member in, especially if it was a black man, because they would take and it's unfortunate, it's a psychosis that is, I believe, is breaking, but because of that, we're still dealing with the ramifications of it. But it was just like, because they knew our hard life was already on the black man, and jail is only going to make it worse. So they would take the role in like, well, don't leave the kids around Uncle Johnny. Like Chris Rock said in the special, where the kids at? Don't leave them about Uncle Johnny. And that's kind of how we kind of dealt with things on that alarm system in that particular way. And that just, I feel like it just became a ripple effect of what we're seeing now, how man, hurt people bleed on other
Yeah.
people, man. And I think that counts for parents too. And I think one thing that we tend to forget, and I don't know if I said in the last episode before, is like, if we're all broken, right? I think it was Hemingway that said, "This world breaks everybody," but and the ones it doesn't break, without being too morbid, it kills. So all you can do is pick up those broken pieces and put yourself back together. But maybe what Hemingway left out was the fact that if you're gonna touch broken glass, chances are you're gonna get cut. So you're gonna have to deal with that wound as well while you're putting that together. And I think we've kind of lost that. And as best we can is like KB and you, King, and I guess me to a degree, keeping an eye on our kids, trying to fend off those type of dangers for as long as we possibly can. And if that means that I got to be the villain in your book, I'll be there. I've gotten into intense conversation with my son, and maybe we've talked about it now, but I would tell him, you can hate me now, just cry at my funeral, because that ain't gonna fly. I'd rather you hate me and have a life where you don't have that type of trauma or turmoil going on than for you to have to go through that and try to maneuver that as a man in this world. And I took that very seriously, took that very to heart. But I think both of you guys made excellent points on how, you know what I'm saying, to if they want to call it helicopter parenting, sometimes you gotta hustle, make sure somebody's safe.
I'm going to say that they'll get it later. They'll get it later, and that's okay. They'll get it later. They may not like it right now. My kids have come back and said, I remember my son saying to me recently, he goes, Mom, I didn't know XYZ you were going through. This is when he was probably 14, 15. And he goes, I was really mad about that for a long time because I thought you told me everything. And I said, honey, that was not age appropriate. He went away for about a week and he comes back. He goes, I'm really glad you didn't tell me that. And this is a grown man now in his 20s. He goes, I'm really glad you didn't tell me back, because now that you're saying that, I wasn't ready for that. I couldn't have handled that. But what I was saying was that they'll get it later. It's so funny now how they come back around older now and they're like, I understand why you did XYZ. Mm-hmm. They will get it. They don't get it now, and we can't convince them of it. But when those limits are set with love, there's a part of them that knows it. They might kick and scream a little bit, but there's a part of them that knows it. But I'm going to have to dip. My hours is up, but I wanted to leave you all with this because I think it's positive. So I wanted to leave it on kind of a positive note. The universe is self-correcting and self-organizing, which means when something's wrong, the universe is going to try to make it right. Mm-hmm. And this is my little tiny minuscule way of trying to bring that around. Because I will tell you that platforms like TikTok and things like that, even though social media has its place of being wrong and bad and whatever, it has brought such awareness to so many kids about eating disorders and mental illnesses and abusive parents and having sex too soon and these type of things. And having a daughter now that's really being raised in that high school TikTok generation, not talking about my 20s and 20-year-olds, my later 20-year-olds, but the amount of conversations that have come from those videos, or she'll say something to me. She'll bring the topic to me. Oh, I saw this on TikTok. Really? And it was something positive. It was something that she was learning, and she started to develop language around her own feelings and talk to this stuff with other people. So sometimes the world is stepping in a way, but it's our job as the parents, even the neighbor mom, Mama Brown, all my kids' friends call me. All right. when they come to that with that topic, this isn't like shoo, I'm talking to Margaret on the phone.
Yeah.
This is like, I gotta call you back. Click. You spend that 20 minutes, even 10 minutes discussing that topic, that's going to sink into that baby's head. And they're going to start to see things a little bit differently, but they need us. They need us.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say thank you again, gentlemen. It's always my honor and pleasure to share the stage with you guys and all the gorgeous comments that came on the side here on the StreamYard. So you guys are beautiful and amazing, and I cherish this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Much love to you. Continue to do what you're doing, and I'll definitely have you on again.
Okay.
Sometime.
And again, congratulations on your book. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your book, KB. And I'm going to say it again. You call us beautiful, but it takes beauty to recognize beauty. So we know where that comes from, ma'am. Enjoy the rest of your night.
It's a namaste thing, right? The light in me sees the light in you.
That's
All
right.
right. Peace, guys. Thank
All
you.
Now, S-Dot, we got, I know you don't have too long, but we got Kev Evans, who's been waiting on the Wisdom app. So I'm going to bring him up. He works with kids and stuff too. So I'm going to bring him up, and we'll hear what input he has on the subject. And thank you guys that are on here listening on the Wisdom app and watching on YouTube and Facebook as well. What's going on, Kev?
Hey, yo, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. Trying to make it, brother.
You're not complaining.
Yeah, man, I've been on since you started, man. I've been listening. It's kind of like, man, I can speak on this for hours, man. And like you mentioned, I work at a high school, actually, with kids. And little quick, brief backstory. I graduated in 2006 to where, for the most part, I mean, phones were kind of just now coming around. Like, you was kind of like a show enough cool kid if you had a cell phone or whatever. I got my first phone in like the 10th grade. So graduated, fast forward up to 2017. I moved up to Atlanta for a while. I came back, moved back to Florida. I live in Florida in 2017. So I was trying to find a job. So my uncle worked at this military school. So I started working there. I loved it from day one. Now it's military, it's ran by the military, so it's extremely strict, extremely structured. So I worked there for 5 years. Everything structured, and it's at-risk youth called Florida Youth Challenge Academy. They got 50 across the nation. It's probably one near you, actually. So
yeah, I'm familiar with that.
5 years to where we're structured, and it is residential, so they don't go home to those same environments. They live there for 5.5 months, and I actually do see kids change. So fast forward to now, to get back closer to home, I'm pretty tight with the principal at my local high school. He wants me to work there because I, know a lot of the kids. He just wants me around. So I get a job there. No specific title. He just wants me to kind of mentor kids, be around. I mean, I'm a tall black guy, 6'4". He thinks that I can kind of help out. So instantly started loving it. I've been there for a couple of months. Day one, I'm like, I don't know if I can't do this. Kids are doing first of all, they got these phones. They have the world instantly in their hands.
Yep.
They're getting influenced by every single thing negative that you can think of. So I'm kind of like, it would be a shot in the dark to even try to do this. There's no way you can revoke these phones, but it's polluting their mind. They got headphones on. I'm like, there's no way your kid can be bumping NBA Young Boy or whatever in the halls and then want to go in class and listen. They don't have the same respect. They don't have the same guidance. People are like, F this, I can't do it. It's like night and day. It was a big wake-up call from when I went to school. So I'm like, man, listen, but I love it. You know what I'm saying? I've been there a couple of months. The kids been taking well to me. They even let me start a program like I did at the military school called Corrective Action Through Physical Exercise, to where like if they get in trouble, they can come see me. And we're doing sandbags, up, down, all that. So, and the kids are really responding to it. Kids need a structured environment. These parents are their friends. When my phone used to ring at home, well, my mama, for the most part, she'll let me tell her what went down. But she'll be like, boy, them teachers ain't got nothing against you. Get you behind the neck, give me that phone, give me that TV. I knew that it was repercussions. It ain't no, these kids don't fear what's gonna go on at the house no more because there ain't nothing going on.
That's right.
I'm telling you, man, it's tough. And I feel like every day I'm like, man, boy, but I love what I do. I feel like if I can just touch one kid, I'm doing all right. So, but I'm just saying, bro, when I say night and day, and the sad thing about it is, I just really don't see it getting no better because of the way these parents are parenting. It's tough out there, man. It really is. Like, we need more people to step up. I heard y'all earlier talking about the mentor program and stuff like that. It seems like everything that really makes money or has people in the rat race, it has nothing to do with our foundation anymore. Like, these kids, like, it sounds cliche, but they really are the future. We gotta invest in them. They're being led by the wrong things. They have, like I say, the world at their fingertips, full of negativity. They're being led by people. They look up to people that are not doing the right thing at all. So it used to be, say when I was going to school, maybe 30% of people, maybe 25% of people doing the wrong thing. But it was actually cool to, hey man, I'm passing my grades, I'm doing good. That ain't it no more.
Yeah.
Like, these kids look up to, excuse my French, idiots. If you walk around, the cool kids are the kids that are not accomplishing anything, and they're raising your kids. I'm telling you, you got to try to outraise society and these kids that want nothing. They want to look up and be like them. And I'm like, boy, it saddens me. But I mean, I'm trying one kid at a time, but it's getting bad. I'm telling you, it is. I see it firsthand.
Now, do any of these kids ever tell you like what's going on at home? I mean, because I know they aren't afraid or they don't respect or revere the parent anymore, the discipline at home. Have you found that that's because the parents are out of the home due to having to work a lot, or are they just letting the kids do whatever, or is it split homes? What do you see?
I'm starting to see a lot because I've been mentoring a lot of kids. And when you let your eyes off these kids for a minute, I mean, you let your kids come home, you're not watching what they're doing, you're not really, as long as they come home at night or whatever, whenever, people are being good with it. People are trying to work, you got a lot of single parent households, and then you got kids that you don't know what they're doing. You don't know who's influencing them. You gotta be involved in these kids' life. And these parents are really not. You know, I see kids run right around town. It's 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. People are still out. Boy, up until I was 17, 18, 19, boy, I had to beat them street lights.
Yeah.
The same rules don't apply no more. Like, people are letting society raise their kids, and other things are more important to them. And I said this to somebody the other day, they were like, wow. I'm like, think about this. Imagine how their kids are going to be. At least we had, like, grandma that didn't play, you know, some of our parents. But now these kids these days, they're not going to have no type of disciplinary structure in sight, not even their parents. So imagine how their kids going to be. So the parenting is getting out of hand. People are not really paying attention to the way they need to, and the world is getting faster and faster. You know, we were tight knit. You had auntie, you know, maybe grandma. You get to go down the street and play. If you did something wrong, auntie will tell you behind up, send you home or whatever. Now these kids, like I say, have the world at their fingertips. Like, it ain't no going down the street and play or whatever. You can be doing something you ain't got no business doing, all on that phone. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And social media and all of that. So it's just a lot different, and it's called parenting by storm. It's much harder to parent these days.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, because like one of my sons, I thought this joker was playing video games on the phone and stuff like that, Roblox and all that good stuff. And we snatched his phone up one time, and this joker looking at Megan Thee Stallion videos and Twerk Nasty 2022 and all kinds of other stuff. And he just turned 11 years old. So this was stuff that we were finding on his phones or iPads at 8, 9 years old. So it's like you say, a lot of this, the world is at their fingertips now. So it used to be where you just had one or two things to watch when it came to your kids. That was answering that roll dial phone. making sure they wasn't on that bad boy, or maybe checking their yearbook to see what note somebody left in it. Now, totally different. Do you see the same things as that?
Yeah, I think what he's spot on what he's saying, man. So the way I kind of look at it is, unfortunately for the kids, because they have access to the world, it's like a sensory overload.
Yeah.
And like coming up with in our age, right? We just didn't have that much to try to comprehend. You know what I mean? Like that was actually out there. The world, I guess, for lack of a better term, the world is much smaller to us than it is to kids now with access to technology, right? So you look at it that way, and then we talk about like the parents. Like I said, I'd be curious to see did he notice, if that's possible, how young the parents are. You know what I'm saying? How close are they? You know what I'm saying? Like if you got, you know what I'm saying, if you got a high schooler and you know what I'm saying, the mom is like mid-30s, like
Yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah.
I you know, that's what I started running to when I used to come get the kids from school. I thought she was a student. I'm like, oh, the mom?
Right.
You know what I mean? So like that they have not been parented. You know, for whatever reason. And I want to say that it's not a blanket statement. I'm not saying it's because you had a child young that they're gonna end up that way. But I am saying this, that age gap does matter. Because like think about it, like if you got a mom that's 34, right? Her mind hasn't completely matured. Even though women mature faster than us, but we still gonna say 24, 25.
Yeah.
So she's only been able to obtain that type of knowledge and maturity for the last 8 years. And you trying to press that into a child that's already in high school. And then we turn around this when it comes to that too. Like the reason why kids don't care about school, and I think opinion, right? This is opinion. One of the reasons why I think they don't care about school is because our generation was taught the most expensive way was the only way for you to be successful in this world, i.e., go to college.
Yep.
Right? Go to college. But it's the most expensive route. So then you got a parent that went to college, right? But when they come out, what they got? Debt.
Nothing really.
Yeah.
Dead.
And stress. Debt and stress, right? Debt and stress. Now, if I'm a child, in my comprehension, I can see the world, I can see a different aspect of the world. And I see you struggling and you went and got a degree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even not knowing that why all that is happening, you know what I'm saying, how big the problem actually is when it comes to that, even not knowing that, and they see that can't be what you can't see. Right? And it's difficult. I feel like it's difficult, not scapegoat parent, I feel like it's difficult to show the children's potential when they are handcuffed by a decision that that was given to them at the time to be not only the route but the best one. You know what I mean? Like, and they see that, and I think it's ramifications from that as well, man. Like it's the inundation of all those things in the world, and then on top of that, what they do see at home. Even if you do, like for instance, you see a parent struggling, working those hours, like the kid. You know why the kid probably out at midnight? Because the mom and dad had to work the night shift because that paid the most money.
Yep. Because you definitely get that shift differential for that for third shift.
Right.
You know I used to pick those late night jobs because they pay more per hour. So yeah, I get it. So it's just I think all of it we can trace back to the system in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Because in most times you see it too, the cost of living goes up, but pay stays the same. Right. So that you either gonna find something that pays more, or if you don't have the skills or that paper that says you're qualified, then guess what? Now you got to take on more hours where you already are, or find another job. And what that does is keep you out of the home even longer than you were out of it anyway. So you don't know what's going on. Look, little girls have the boys climbing through the windows and stuff like that. Or, well, shoot, now they ain't even got to do that, though. They can just open up the door because the parent ain't around anyway. And so a lot of times it's not that the parent is purposely being neglectful,
right?
But got to survive. So we have to find better ways to not let the children just get thrown under the freaking bus and stay there.
And also we need to address, also we should address the fact that, like we took, and I say we because I think the only way we're gonna fix this is together, even if I, even if I don't agree with who did it, right? But we took home ec, workshop, sex education, all these things out of school, anything, like those things that should be the bedrock for you from being a young person to a young adult should be right there. And we took those out either because people didn't feel comfortable with it or they felt like it wasn't worth funding. So when we look back at the educational process, man, it's going to take those who see what's going on and what's wrong to make some noise, to bring out that point of emphasis. Like literally, we have an administration that say we see no tangible evidence to why giving a child an extra meal after school helps them with their intelligence. And it's like, who the F is looking for that?
Yeah.
Chances are the kid was starving, but they knew they could get a free meal at least from school.
Mm-hmm.
But in their infinite wisdom, you couldn't budget. You say, well, they don't need that, right? So, like again, not investing in our youth, man, is devastatingly wrong. And I'm trying to remember. I think it was on the Real. And I don't remember the guy that was standing up there, but he said this thing, and I was trying to memorize it. He said, "My grandfather walked 10 miles to work. My father walked 5. I'm driving a Cadillac. My son is driving a Ferrari. My great grandson will be riding. My great grandson will be walking again." And the question was why. He said because weak times create strong men create easy times create weak men.
Mm.
So I committed that to memory because I think that's how I look at our youth. Like
And when I tell you, boy, they're weak, I'm talking about they don't want to go through nothing these days. These kids don't want to go through nothing. Their world is ending if they have to go through anything.
And they already feel like they are. And the thing about it, they already feel like they are going through something. And you like, man, it's not even close. Like I know you are going through something, but it's not even close. Like to how real it's gonna get when you get outside and walk.
Like all the time. Because my mom used to tell me that. I say, boy, this world will chew you up and spit you out. They don't care nothing about your feelings. They don't, because when I ask kids stuff, they come in my office or whatever. I got what I call the chew out chair. When you sit your butt in it before they even finish, I say, okay, you talk first. What happened? 99% of the time, it's somebody else's fault. 99% of the time, they're going to give you a whole drawn out way why it's somebody else's fault, either the teacher or somebody did something. And I'm like, they have no accountability. Anything you say to them, I break it down. Is it not a rule for, say a kid get to school late, quick scenario. They don't, they come in with their drinks and coffee and all that kind of stuff or whatever. They're not allowed to take it to class. So first of all, I don't agree with this, but they give them time to go over there and drink it, then we'll give you a pad. I'm like, go drink it. You know it's a rule. You can't bring a drink in school, like when you're late. So we're going to keep you out of class so you can sit over there and sip on your drink. I don't agree with that, but that's a rule. So when you tell a kid, hey, you can't take that to class, you got to drink, they be the first ones pissed off. I'm like, that's a rule, and you know it. But they'll beat you. They'll argue up and down. These kids don't want to hear nothing but what they want to hear. Period. If you go, that's why it's so hard for parents. Like the young lady before she got off, I love what she said. Bump that. You gotta go against what your kids want sometimes, regardless of how mad they get at you. They'll thank you in the long run. Like they will. But these kids' structure and rules, if it ain't what a kid want, they ain't trying to hear. And people just stand and give in to them.
Yeah, a lot of it.
They're weak now.
I think a lot of it, they give into it because, like we were saying, fear. Some of it is just plain out not wanting to ruffle any feathers. It's so many reasons, man. But I think I think the what we can leave it with is, even though we were saying how do we get our youth back on track, I think the main way is for us as parents to get back on track, because it starts with us, and those kids that may not have that solid foundation, then they're going to have to be more of us that strap up those boots and get a backbone and not be afraid to say, hey, young brother or young sister, I see the road you're going down on. Not judging you, but there's a better way. We have to open up our arms to these kids. We have to let them see something more than what they looking at every day in the streets, because it's one thing. I think we spoke about this the first time. It's one thing to say that you care. It's another to show them that you care. And S. Dot, you were talking about these the lack of investing earlier. So there needs to be a lot more of investing in these youth, and it has to go beyond the pockets. We have to invest emotionally, spiritually into them, physically and financially.
And I want to say this. And I want to say this too, though, King. Like when you say like you got to start with us parents. As parents. Mm-hmm. I want to say this though: those who aren't parents, make sure you play a role in this as well.
Yes.
Because you know what I'm saying. You don't have to be a parent to show a child the right way to do something.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, and I get it. It is the parents. You know what I'm saying. We want to start there, but even if you don't have children, and you believe in the betterment of this world once you are no longer here. You want to be better than when you got here, right? That involves continuously planting seeds in other young people, and giving them example. In essence, you may be helping the parent out. Put it that way. You tag team with the parent, they don't even know it. Like he worked 12 hours, but I ran into Mr. King, and he kind of gave me some good points, man. I'm gonna try to use that. Well, I'm glad you ran into Mr. King. I really appreciate it. I hope I get to meet that brother one day. Like we got to get to that point. We got to get to that point. Like it's not just a parental responsibility; it's everybody's responsibility.
That's right. And on that note, I think that's a wonderful way to slide on out tonight. It is everybody's responsibility. I want to thank S. Dot and KB for coming on again. I truly appreciate you. I'm very proud of you, brother. I want you to again let the people know about your podcast so we can support you, follow you, subscribe, however we need to do it. And all the Wisdom App listeners, thank you so much. Definitely tune back in next Thursday at 8:00. It is going to be a very touching show next week. We're going to be talking about domestic violence. I'm going to have man. I'm going to have five guests next week that's going to share their stories. We're going to talk about some of the signs of domestic violence, some of the ways we can assist those that are going through it. It's definitely going to be therapeutic for a lot of people. Bring your Kleenex if you have to, and strap in. I know I started to have these shows to be like an hour and a half. Well, I'm not going to put any time restraints on next week's episode. So just be ready for a ride. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and S. Dot, you want to tell them about your
please. First of all, brother, I'm proud of you too, man. I love what you're doing with the show. I love the positive influence that you put out in the world that surrounds you. You continue to vibrate that, man, and I think that's one of the reasons why me and you got to know each other. But as far as my podcast, I share with my co-host King Rencher as the Substance Over Surface. You can catch us on YouTube. I know there's a couple of names out there like that. Look for the red circle band with a microphone in the middle for us. And we really try to talk about we talk about solution-based dialogue and what we can do within our community to push forward. We just recently closed our first season, and we starting our second one actually tomorrow night.
Wow.
But I can't thank you enough for this opportunity to be here with you, brother. I love the discussions. I love the individuals who take time out to comment on here, they're aware, their ears are open, and they're going to be part of the change that you're trying to create in society. Before I sign off, man, I always say this whenever I sign off. I believe kindness is a superpower that we all possess, and with kindness you can change someone's day, week, month, year, and yes, even their life. So if you have a little bit of it, just a little, please by all means share it, man.
I appreciate you, brother, and you all definitely go subscribe to S. Dot's YouTube channel for his podcast. Now, I appreciate you, brother. I'm proud of you, and we'll be talking again in the future.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, absolutely. You got to get a spot on mine as well. Appreciate you, my brother.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, y'all. I appreciate everyone watching on YouTube, Facebook. I appreciate the Wisdom App listeners. You guys, if you haven't already, follow me on Wisdom App. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to grow it as large as possible so that we can get a lot of these stories, messages, and things out to the masses. I tell you all the time, my goal is to bridge the gap between men and women. I want men to understand women better. I want women to understand men better. And I want to spread as much positive energy as possible. I want a solid foundation for these youth to come up on, and I want a solid foundation for us to continue to be on as well. So please help support the channel, support the movement, and you guys have a beautiful, wonderful night. We'll be back next Thursday at 8 o'clock.